It was strange. I was pulling up to my university or to college, and I would pull up in like a drop top Lexus, like a $70,000 car, and I was like 19, right?
Dude, so Val, Shaan, he's not making it today, but that's okay. Your thing went viral today. How many likes did you get? Like 3,000, 3,300?
Something like that. I had to turn off my notifications. I can't do when you work with. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how people do it while running full businesses, but I had to turn that off because I just can't concentrate. That thing my phone was just blowing up all day.
Now you know how I feel. It is crazy, right? It's crazy. So you had 3,000 followers, and now you have like 9,000?
Something like that. Yeah, I'm up. I mean, it took me how many years to get up to like 2,700? Yeah, now it's. I don't know. I didn't even look, to be honest with you, but I'm probably at like 9,000 at this point.
So, all right. The background here is I met you through we share like a best friend, Joe, and Joe told me about you. He goes, "This guy's crazy." And so, Val, let me tell you what I know about you, and you tell me if it's right or wrong, and then I want to hear your story. But basically, he goes, and I won't reveal too many numbers. I'll let you talk about any number that you want to talk about because I don't know if what I know is confidential or not. So I'm not gonna mention them. But you, as a 19-year-old, you came from Russia. You came from Russia.
I came from Uzbekistan. At the age of 11.
Okay. So. And then you come here, you get a computer at like 16 or 17. You start this affiliate marketing business. You're the only employee. By age like 22, 23, you've made something like 30 million in profit from this like one little business. From there, you parlayed that into a lyric website that was like one of the biggest lyric websites in the world, which doesn't sound that impressive, but most people don't realize that lyric websites are some of the most biggest websites in the world. And so that made like another 8 figures in profit. From there, you parlayed that into an ad network that now is like huge. From there, you've now launched a jewelry business that apparently Joe has said it's bigger than all your other companies, but I don't know if that's true or not. And then throughout all this, you've acquired and sold and developed like $100+ million of real estate. Is all this accurate?
Some of it. Okay, so. Well, actually, my first.
And by the way, the reason I'm having you on here is because we've had a lot of really successful people on here do interesting stuff, and there are like a lot of them are well known, but you don't. I basically the other day begged you to like tweet something, and I helped you write this tweet, and it took like a few days, and we got it out there. But like besides that, you've pretty much have never done any press. You've never talked about this publicly, and when I met you, I was like, this is a gold mine. This guy has so many interesting stories. We got to tell this story. So anyway, what was wrong and what was right?
So, okay. So, well, actually, the funny part is that the first business I had was a PlayStation, like a video game website. So it wasn't like huge, but I was in high school and making like $5,000 a month. That actually taught me a lot of lessons. So the search marketing.
And you actually told me, I actually tweeted another thing about you where you said, hey, my 12-year-old son has a website that's making like 2 G's a day or something like that. And he needs an email service provider. Which one should he use? And I tweeted that screenshot and it went viral.
Yeah, well, that was anonymous. I guess it's not anonymous anymore. But so he's that's interesting. I saw you post that. And he still has a website. It's not doing as well, but not quite at 2,000. A day anymore, but he's working on like coding this thing away, and he's like figuring out all these things. So it's actually amazing to see it, at his age. He's 12 years old.
Where'd you get? It's crazy that you and your family, you're just finding all these opportunities. Where did it start? So your first thing was a PlayStation website. What is that?
So it was a site called PSX Extreme. This is like I launched it like in 98, 99 or something like that. Actually, it was 99. It was right before the bubble, the .com bubble burst. I was like about 8 months into the bubble, and it was doing really well. It was very easy to generate revenue, and once I got the traffic, the site was all about anything related to PlayStation. So like get cheat codes, your reviews, screenshots, whatever, right? Anything for like PlayStation fans. So it was like a PlayStation fan website. Then the dot-com bubble hits. My revenues disappeared 90%. My traffic was still up there, but I had no revenues because all the ad revenue disappeared. Like it went from being $3 CPM down to 30 cents CPM if you could be lucky enough to get that.
How many people were going to this website?
It wasn't huge, but I had like 10,000 uniques a day, maybe 20,000.
In 99 and 98, that's got to be a massive site.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good amount of traffic, and it was all free. So it was interesting, like experience, because I had to quickly learn how to generate revenue, and I had to go out there and sell advertising myself. And and then once I figured out that I could sell advertising, I didn't have enough traffic. So I started going to other video game sites and saying, who had much more traffic than me, and said, hey, I got all these advertisers who would spend more if I had more traffic. Like, let me put ads on your sites. So I went to all these other video game sites and like just was a broker for advertising. So that was kind of like my first, making decent amount of money. I was making
That's
5
crazy.
and then like just from the site, and I was making probably another 10 a month from being a broker.
And then the thing that you tweeted today, or maybe last night, basically you told the story about how when you were 19, after this PlayStation site, you built an affiliate ad site, and it made like I forget the numbers, but in 2 or 3 years, it was like over 30 million in profit. So what were you were selling stuff on behalf of half.com or eBay? Who were you? Or no, New York Times. You had like 800 you had like 800 ad accounts that sold different stuff. So like a New York Times subscription which sold for $100, but you were able to sell it for only $30, so you were able to keep the difference, something like that.
Yeah, so it's affiliate marketing, but I used paid search, which was very new back then. And at the time, after the .com bubble burst, all the advertisers got all of a sudden digital advertising stopped being interesting. For a moment there, businesses thought it might, internet might be overhyped, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden you see kind of all these budgets get pulled back, right? Especially all the brand advertising, but nobody really, so everybody had to still figure out how to get customers. So they said, okay, you know what? We won't do brand advertising. But if somebody drives us customers, we'll pay per customer. Like we can't lose on that, right? So performance marketing. So that was around, and it was very accessible. And at the same time, the media wasn't expensive, right? Because the supply was there, but the demand wasn't there. So that's what I took advantage of. I started buying up a lot of the supply. Mostly it was paid search. And that's what made everything so profitable, because I was just playing into those supply-demand dynamics that were working in my favor. But yes, what I would do is I would find an advertiser that had a product. I would test it on, at the time, kind of like the modern-day Yahoo paid search, or back then it was called GoTo.com. And then later Google came around. And so I would test that ad. If it works, I expand on it. If it doesn't work, right, I would figure out how to make it work, right? If there's a way to make it work. And yeah, I was able to spend $1 and generate $3.
Selling? And what things were you selling?
Oh man, everything. Yeah.
And all this was making like many millions of dollars of sales for your little one-person operation every year.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Val, yeah, tell us a little bit about like what was going on in your life at the time. Like, did you try and go to college? Were you doing this while you were at college? Did you drop out? Like, what are you doing with your life?
At 19? I already had the business, and I got into I love finance, so I was like, all right, so I'm gonna do business finance, and I didn't really feel like I should be, but I only did it because, and I had no time for it.
You seem like you'd be awful at that.
I was awful. I was actually interested in the topics, especially the topics I was interested in, like law or finance or business, accounting, all those things were interesting. Like I couldn't sit through biology. But even though they were interesting, I had no time to study, so I would suck at tests. My GPA was horrible. I can't remember what it was, but it was just horrible. Because I just didn't care to, get prepared for the tests. I slept in half of the class. I was just catching up on sleep because I would go to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then
Don't you still do that? Don't you go to sleep at 4 and get up at noon?
Yeah, I average 4, 5. Yeah, so if I go to sleep I think yesterday I went to sleep at 4, today I woke up at 11. So I try to get 7 hours of sleep. It doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times I have to, live on 5, 6 hours. But
do you recognize that you're a weirdo?
I'm used to it. You know what? I'm a weirdo. I know. I do everything in reverse. My wife keeps telling me like you do everything backwards.
So you're studying finance, but you're not doing well because you're running these businesses.
I'm in school just because I have a Jewish mother, and she wanted me to go to
you gotta be in school.
You have to be in college, right? Or you have to go to.
But did they know that you're like, hey, mom, I bet you I'm making more money than you?
I think she kind of knew. I don't know if she knew, but what I was making, I don't remember. But it was strange. I was pulling up to my university or to the college. I went to Baruch, New York City, Baruch Business of Finance, Zicklin Business of Finance. And I would pull up in like a drop top Lexus, like a $70,000 car, and I was like 19, right? So or 18, whatever I was. I think I was 18 at that point. I don't think I even started the paid surgery biz at this point.
So this business is just like crushing it. So like a few years in your tweet you said it made over 30 million in profits, like 3, 4, 5 years in. So it's gone really well. You're paying like a crazy amount of taxes, you said. So you decide to move to the burbs a little bit outside of New York City, and you like buy a cheap house in cash. So things are going well, right? Like but you said, I'm a little bored with this, or I don't really want to go much further into this in this racket. I want to try something new. And then the next business was Mobile Fuse, which is around today, right?
So I actually launched around the same time. We launched 2 businesses. So hold on. So I launched the let's call it the music content distribution company.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Right. So I didn't own actually lyric sites. What I did is I built a service. I built a system that connects, called ringtone matcher. And what I realized was there was demand for ringtones, and there was all this traffic for all this music-related traffic, especially in lyrics. And so what I did is I built a service, and the other thing I realized is the traffic was very much international. Like 70% of a music site or a lyric site was non-US. And I noticed that some of the advertisers, like ringtone advertisers, were advertised. They'll do okay. But they would have they could only accept US customers, and they could only accept like Verizon customer or only T-Mobile customer. So I built this thing called Ringtone Matcher, and Ringtone Matcher basically integrated like 60 countries into one system. So if you have a music site, you could drive those users to Ringtone Matcher, and Ringtone Matcher will figure out based on geo, like what country you're in, right? Based on what carrier you use, because it's carrier billing. So it's important that, I figure out like if you have T-Mobile, and to match you up to a ringtone service that actually is compatible with T-Mobile. And then the third thing we'll look for if that content is available. So if you're clicking on, hey, get Toxic by Britney Spears ringtone on your phone, I need to make sure that song is also available in their catalog, because some ringtone providers had like Warner Music, and some of them maybe just had the EMI. There were like 4 major music companies at the time, and these ringtone providers didn't have all those catalogs, so they might have 1 or 2 at a time. So I would take all that data and put it into one simple link. And
how big did that get?
Huh?
How big did that business get?
I was in front of Ringtone Matcher was in front of 500 million people a month.
What?
Yeah, 500 million. So, and it was everywhere. I mean, it wasn't just lyric sites. I was on CBS Radio, AOL Radio, Yahoo Radio, Last FM, like pretty much every music site. I remember even talking to Musically, which is TikTok now, right? I remember even talking to those guys. We were talking to WhatsApp in the early days, like when they were just two guys or something. Like we wanted to integrate, because anytime somebody mentions music or a song or something, like I want my I want a ringtone matcher there to show up. So
but when you're using the word we again, it's not we.
No,
right?
this company was. So actually, that company, I started Ringtone Matcher myself. Again, I was a one-man show. At some point, there was one little group of guys who were pretty good at dealing with advertisers and or actually ringtone providers, and I felt like I need help on that front. And so I merged those guys in. So there were 5 guys that merged into my company to form Tone.
When you say merge, who bought who?
I was majority owner of the company, and then the 5 guys had they had a third of the company. I had 2/3.
How big was it when it was just you?
It was going nuts. But I believe the year we merged, it was 10 million.
Just
Profit.
Again, just
Net.
you.
Yeah.
10 million profit with just you. Why do you think, so this is we'll get to the rest in a minute, but why do you think that you find this weird stuff, and why don't you hire people? 2 different questions, but how on earth do you find this type of stuff?
You know, it's funny. Like I see how organized you are, right? Like you make your goals, you lay everything out on paper, right? You're very organized, and you could think about it. You ask people for feedback. I'm totally opposite of that. I just kind of go with where, like, I like to test things, and I guess I'm very curious. And I could be very, very focused, but if I get distracted, I get very easily distracted, right? So it could be like sometimes it's a curse, but sometimes it's a blessing. A lot of times it's a blessing. And I come across these interesting things, and my curiosity just takes it further. So the way I actually came across this thing was because I felt that there was a point of my life where I was seeing Google was just too dominant part of my business, and I didn't like that because I didn't want to rely on any one thing. So I started looking outside of paid search for supply. And I came across these music sites, and I actually started testing Rhapsody on them because I had such a good deal with Rhapsody. I was like, let me start marketing them outside of search. And it did okay. And I had these, I started building these relationships with the music sites, and then I kind of tested a ringtone service, and it just crushed. Like, it was not even close. Like, it did 3 times better. And I was like, wow, this thing did 3 times better than Rhapsody. And that ringtone provider was just covering US, just like 1 or 2 music labels, and like 2 carriers out of 4. I think there were 4 major carriers at the time. I was like, hold on a second. If it's already doing 3 times as well, what happens if I start integrating everything globally, right? So that's how Ringtone Matcher came about.
When you launch stuff, what's your first version like?
Junk.
Like, do you get the idea and it's alive
redirect.
in 12 hours?
It was a kiddie script. I wrote. This guy was kind of freelancing for me a little bit. I didn't even want to tell him about the idea. He's actually a CTO of one of my companies now. He was like 15, 16 years old. And I didn't want to tell him the idea. So I said, hey, how do you script this? How do you script that? So I scripted it myself. and so yeah, so it was pure junk. It was literally just a bunch of if and then statements on and ASP. We were running Windows server on ASP infrastructure, so I had a bunch of redirects that were just doing a bunch of if and then statements and redirecting people based on certain parameters.
When you're doing it, are you like? See, every time I've hung out with you, the reason I like hanging out with you and Joe, I consider Joe one of my best friends, and so I have like his attitude. You and Joe have the same attitude, which is like
he's a little more laid back than me and you, I think.
He is. I've never seen him lose his temper. He is very calm, and I'm like, hey, this didn't work out for this reason. He goes, oh, that's okay. Like, he's super calm, but you have that too. I think that what it is, you have this like. I don't know if the right word is like chutzpah, if the right word is like, I don't know what the word is, but it's almost like things I've heard. We're going to get to the rest of the stories because there's like this jewelry business that you started, which is like, seems like even bigger than all the other things that you've done potentially. And you like do these things where I'm like, but like Val, you don't know anything about that. And like, you don't even have any employees. Like you don't know anything. But you just are like, yeah, but whatever. We'll just go a little bit further, and then we'll see what happens. And then if it sucks, I'll bail. You know what I mean? Like you have this like, oh shucks attitude, like yeah, we'll see what happens. It's very interesting. Whereas like if I was doing what you were doing, and I started seeing those results, I'm like, is this illegal? Am I breaking the law? Am I going to go to jail? What is going on? Like it's almost like most people would have self-destructive tendencies when they see this like going so well.
Yeah, look, I see that all the time. I feel like people tend to overthink things and spend a lot of time like analysis paralysis. And the reason I think a lot of people are successful, like especially somebody like me, is while somebody's thinking about perfecting one thing, which by the way will still have a 60% failure. Right? On that one thing that you just overthought. I'd rather test 10 things within that same time period, and I will likely have a better accuracy, or I'll have a better chance of hitting it out of the ballpark with one of those 10 things, maybe more than one of those things.
Yeah, how did you get into the jewelry business to start with?
So after I sold those two music-related companies, which I took like 3 years off. I thought I retired. But it was anything but. I just started getting like my curiosity was just taking me into all different like. I was on all these boards and I was like investing into a bunch of things and I realized after 3 years that I need to build something again. So I started looking at. I knew that I wanted to do something where it's fixing or disrupting a fragmented space. I didn't really want to go after like corporate America. I wanted to go after like mom and pops. That when I say mom and pops, it could be like I'm thinking like car dealerships, right? They do tens of millions of dollars. It doesn't mean they're tiny, right? So I wanted to go after something like along those lines. And I had some investments in the jewelry space. I had some family in the jewelry space. It's a pretty tight-knit community. I just happened to be had some family that knows that business. I actually worked as a teenager. I worked every weekend. I worked in a jewelry store. I knew how to fix jewelry. I mean, I would sit on a bench with a blowtorch at like 15 years old, because my cousin taught me. It was a family business. My aunt and uncle's business. They had a couple jewelry stores, and they taught me how to fix jewelry. And so I knew the business a bit from the retailer's perspective. It always seemed like a very weird way to do business. I always had questioned everything like they're doing. And the idea was, hey, like these retailers, if we could build a platform and services and we could integrate into them. And this is a $300 billion industry, by the way, globally, which fragmented but controls is actually bigger. Independents are bigger part of the business, fine jewelry, than the majors, the chains. So I knew that, again, if I could build distribution, but I had to bring, then there's a lot of power there. But I have to bring value, and that's where my expertise in data and marketing, digital, all that came into to fruition. So we basically put this thing together. We integrate into the stores and help them grow, help them bring customers, cut costs, increase their revenue.
How much did you invest to start it?
To start it, to start it, I think we started off a couple of million.
So you put $2 million of your
in
own
the beginning,
money.
yeah.
How big is this? But you've done more. I think you put more in since. How big is this going to be?
I put in way more. At this point, I put in 8 figures into this business. I think it's a multi-billion-dollar company in the future.
For real? You think it's a multi-billion-dollar company, like to sell?
Yeah, market cap. I believe that. I don't know if there's anybody big enough to buy my company or this company. We actually have a lot of people this time around. It's no longer just Val. We have a lot of employees. I believe this company will be, if it's successful and we could do what we need to do and we could really help all these retailers step up their game. I don't think that there's really a company in that space that would be big enough to acquire us. So
But are you the CEO of that company? Is that smart? That doesn't seem like you get up at 11 a.m. and like you go to bed at 4. How are you the CEO of a company that could be $1 billion company?
Good question. Look, we have a great team that is able to execute.
How many people?
It's hard to say. We became pretty global, but our offices outside of the U.S. are not all they're not employees, right? So all in. If I had to talk about factories, our tech teams, our marketing teams, we're probably talking about 70 people at this point.
Wow. And who's but you're not running the day-to-day of the business, are you?
Oh, hell yeah. 95% of the time goes into this business.
So then are you talking with the employees and things like that? You're running all hands meetings and things like that?
Yeah, I'm not big on meetings, I'll be to be honest with you. But I'm very accessible to all my team. Everybody on my teams have access to me. I go into the office in the city. We actually we were in the office June 2020. We had, COVID. It was ghost town in the city, and we had to figure out how to be in the office because it's not it's not just a digital ad business that I could just operate from work from home, right? We had to have people in the offices, and we did all kinds of things. We got cars to pull people in to the office, but anyway, I'm there. I'm in the weeds.
But it's not you're kind of downplaying it. I invested in one of your properties. We bought a sixplex in Greenpoint, I think. I forget.
Well, we essentially bought land, right? We bought a house because it's going to be knocked down. We're going to build a brand new. We're going to ground up construction. It's going to be a nice condo building.
Yeah. That's what I mean. But I didn't even look at the details. I was just anything that Val does, I'm part of. But it's way bigger than you're just saying it's a project. I think you've bought $100 million worth of real estate, right?
No, I haven't bought 100 million. We have 6 projects. A couple of them are already completed. Third one is just about to be completed. Actually, the first 2 were completed and completely sold out. The third one is about to be completed and go on the market. And then we have 3 other projects, and they are getting bigger and bigger. The value of the combined sale value of those projects would be approaching $100 million.
What are you tinkering on now? What excites you now? And someone asked a good question, which is, what is the equivalent of ringtones today?
What's the equivalence of?
like it's just crazy that it's just like you're kind of like this like digital cowboy. You're just like this like one guy in the Wild West doing this shit with like no rules. I just think it's hilarious that you are just a pirate who's taking it to the extreme. Where are the digital pirates at right now?
It has to be like TikTok.
What do you mean?
It's you look for like those spaces that haven't been touched, right? I guess people ask me, and I think that's what you're saying. Like, what can be marketed these days, and how to get that kind of scale? And I don't. It's hard because what I've seen over my career is that the windows of opportunity, those white spaces, right? Those windows are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter every iteration, right? There was the paid search probably lasted a good 6 years. After that, or around that same time, there was display. That probably lasted a little less. And then there was social media. That window probably, the arbitrage window, right?
Yeah.
That probably lasted 2-3 years at best. Now you talk, now you got like Instagram and TikTok, and you got the Instagram Reels. Those are probably also 1 year windows of opportunity. If you could kind of catch that lightning and build on it, then you got something. But your window,
and it's all rooted in distribution, which is how do you get distribution quickly? And you're saying that you think that's TikTok. Do you think that window is still open?
I think if you have a knack for understanding how get virality or get content, then you have your own distribution. If you don't have that knack, you got to figure out how to work with people that have that access. So if there's one company that could work with all the Sam Parrs, right, all the podcasters, how much is that worth? Like, we're using a platform here right now, right? That is a smart. they're doing the right thing. Like, they're focusing on guys like you who have all this access, but they're not selling anything, right? They're just selling you a platform. If somebody could figure out how to sell a product across a number of podcasts, that's worth a lot. And you can move a lot of product. And by the way, it doesn't have to be podcasts. What about all the TikTokers who are doing all those dances, right? I know, like for one company, they scaled to like 80 million in sales a few years ago. I'm not going to mention the name of it, but they scaled up to like 80 million in sales just on the back of YouTube influencers.
What was the product?
It was a cosmetics product. And they just...
Cosmetics.
What's that?
Cosmetics. It was just like makeup or something, or lotion.
Yeah. The numbers were just insane. And it was just a long tail. It wasn't just the big influencers. Even the like thousands of mediocre influencers, or the smaller ones that just drove it. So stuff like that, like latch on to something that is big, especially if you could latch on to the long tail of it. Because not a lot of people look at the long tail part of businesses.
Well, so one thing I wonder, like this thing that Val talks about of testing out 10 different things before the other guy can put his pants on, right? Like you're building your perfect thing that's going to take you 6 months before you even get to market. Great. I'm going to test 10 things in that time. That sounds really nice, but also like, I guess I'll actually ask Sam first, then I'll ask you, Val. Yep. Like, what do you think it is about Val? What do you think it is about either his skill set or his personality that allows him to do that much testing where other people just like can't figure that out apparently?
I think that this is a common thread that I've seen. My buddy Joe is just like this. There's this thing, particularly, I find it amongst immigrants or children of immigrants. And maybe because they've like experienced some type of hardship where they're like, dude, I've experienced some crazy shit, or my family has experienced crazy shit. I have zero fear in looking like a fool. If the worst that's going to happen is that I'm going to look stupid or lose a tiny amount of money, I'm okay with that, and I don't have any fear about that. That's what I think I've noticed. That's the trend I've noticed amongst people like Val.
Look, I think there's a huge factor, and one of the things I look at, like I'm raising kids now, right? How do I make sure that they kind of, because they're not gonna grow up the same way I grew up, right? They're not gonna come out the resources they have, the access they have, it's very different from what I grew up with. So what I think I realized is the power is in resourcefulness. Okay? I was able to make a lot, or do a lot, I should say. Whether it's money or whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be just money. It could be whatever excites you, right? But I was able to do a lot with very little. But it's because I had no choice, and I had very little. Like, we weren't poor. Like, I didn't come from poverty or anything like that. But again, my parents couldn't afford a computer for me for the first 6 years of my life here, right? So I got to think, like, how do I recreate that? And you can't really recreate that for your kids, but I figured, okay, I'm not going to give my kids everything on a silver platter. So you just talked about my son. Like, he is, his DNA is very like mine. Like, he's way ahead of me because he has all these tools. Like, he has a computer way before me. I didn't buy him a computer. I made him save up the money. I don't care how he does it, birthdays, work, whatever. During that time, he researched all parts and everything. I think at the age of like 7 or 8, he built a computer, bought the parts by himself. He built a computer from scratch by himself. I didn't even help him.
That's crazy.
So he now built 2 computers, and he taught himself how to code. And so I suppress resources for my kids systematically. Not like I don't feed them. Like they're doing just fine. Like they go to great school and everything. Yeah. And they live in a nice neighborhood. But I systematically make sure that they're not given all the resources, because that's how you naturally learn to become resourceful.
What do you think it is?
Yeah,
Ben?
Fundamentally, it's about doing more with less, essentially, you're saying.
Yeah, but it has to start from day one.
Are you driven by money?
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes, because it's kind of like a score, right? I don't see no money. It's like it's a number in a bank account, right? Like it's not like back in the days where you look, it's not like we're Scrooge McDuck, like, and you get to jump through the vault of cash, right? Like I would watch it as a kid, and I was like, wow, I want to be that guy one day. No, I think what I'm driven really is by just winning, and there is a bit of sense in me of that I'm one step from losing it all.
You still feel that way?
I feel like it's still possible. I think it's like that immigrant thing, probably.
By the way, I feel exactly the same way. I was like in bed last night telling my wife, I was like, I need to go to like a therapist or something. I'm like, I'm freaking out. We're gonna lose everything. This is all going away. I feel like for a long time, I like had a plan on where I would go if I was homeless. Like I still believe that it's all going away.
In some ways, in a weird way, kind of excites you. Not, I don't know about homeless, but that you got a chance to figure it out from scratch again.
Because it does kind of make me because when you have nothing, it's kind of fun to play games because it's just easier to bet sometimes. You can't bet as much, but it's kind of exciting to be like just like a hood rat with nothing, like which I was. It is kind of exciting, but I get fear of like the anxiety I feel of losing everything. Like I have so many spreadsheets that map out like, all right, when the money gets to this number, then I got to go and panic and get a job and start like Ubering. Like I have like a plan for that. The reason why I had you on, and Ben, the reason why I wanted to show you this guy is now he's hard to explain, but I wanted people to understand like a truly unique and original thinker. And I don't, you're gonna have to come on again, but like, do you understand what I'm saying, Ben? It's very original thinking.
Yeah, and you can see that just in the way that like you, Val, have tackled like a different set of problems than anyone else I've ever talked to. Just like I've never talked to someone who's like, yeah, I tackled ringtones and then ad networks and then peer-to-peer lending and then the jewelry business. Like I just think that kind of belies how your mind functions differently than other people. Do you feel that way? Like, do you feel that you just have unique perspective? Have you met anyone that looks at the world the way you do?
And if you acknowledge that it's weird, and you're saying that you didn't actually realize it was weird until I talked about you in the podcast like half a year ago, which is weird. Because how old are you? Like 39, 38, and you're now just realizing that you're an oddball.
Yeah. So I didn't see myself that way until you did the whole expose with that show on that one episode that you didn't tell me about, but after our lunch. But
I know.
Yeah, when you
by
said,
the way,
like,
I told Joe, I was like, dude, I never do that. I almost always ask for permission before I talk about it, but I just was too excited and I forgot.
It was. I have a story, but I'm gonna tell you that after on
Okay.
that. But so to me, like when you said like, oh, this guy goes from this industry to that industry, he's like jumping all over the place, and he's kind of successful or successful on at doing it. This is like crazy. I was like, huh. I never thought of myself that way. But it makes sense. Like, I don't know. I keep jumping different categories. I guess again, that curiosity just kicks in, and I just, but I go after it instead of just what if. I just kind of go after it. But no, I until now I really haven't realized that how odd that is. But thank you for letting me know that I'm really strange.
I just think that like there's just a bunch of unique things about you, and I think it's so cool. When I say weird and odd, that's a really good compliment, by the way.
Yeah, listen, I know you well enough now to know that's a compliment. And so the funny story about, again, before you, I was pretty under the radar, right? Like yeah, you can find stuff on me. You have to really look. Like nobody really put it out there, right? And so then Joe tells me like, you're gonna do the podcast, and I didn't tell my wife. And then the podcast comes out. I'm like, hey Sarah, this guy did a podcast on me. She's like, and who cares about a podcast? She's like, but he's gonna talk about me. She's like, who cares? Like, what a couple hundred people are gonna listen? I'm like, apparently this guy has like 1 million people listening. She's like, oh, great. She's like, did he ask you permission? I was like, not really. So I don't really know what he's gonna talk about. So she's like, okay. So the thing comes out. I was like, so we're listening to it, and you keep saying Val. You keep saying Val. Like you never say, right? Never say my last name. And then you and Shaan go into like this tangent talking about red pill and blue pill or whatever. So she's like, and so we thought like it's it, Val part is over, right? She's like, okay, it wasn't so bad. He never mentioned your last name. Who the heck is gonna figure out who's Val? And then after you went off to a tangent about the pills, you're like, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention his full name. Let me spell it out for you. And you literally spelled my last name. So she's like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
Oh, she was bad.
No, she wasn't bad. She's very nice.
I thought that everything we said you could find publicly, and we didn't reveal anything like crazy. And I try to only I just read your LinkedIn. That's basically all I did.
Yeah, you could find stuff about, but it's it's one thing to information to be out there and for somebody to look for it. But it's another when you're on full blast, right? Like, and it's being discovered. So right by
yeah.
audiences. So that's all new to me.
I know. I felt like an asshole when that happened. I'm normally always good about that. So like if we're out with friends and people are talking about stuff, I'm like, hey, is this private or not? Like they have to make sure they say it's private around me.
Yeah, you're a nice guy, so I'll let it slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I blew up your spot. And yeah, that's something I remember the day that happened. I was like, oh my God, Joe, I didn't even realize it. Because sometimes when Shaan and I are recording, I forget that it's the podcast. It's just like friends talking
yeah.
to one another. And I forget. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I just said that on air. I can't believe that. So that was one of those examples. But dude, this was awesome. What do you think, Ben? This is pretty badass.
This is great. It's got me fired up to go. I know you're doing your Airbnbs this year, Sam. That's kind of your thing. But
Val told me not to do it, though. Right before this podcast, he said, don't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it anyway. But I told him these 2 ideas that I might work on. And he basically said, dude, I was like, should I work on going hard on content? Should I work on this job board idea or this Airbnb thing? And he goes, do content. And I was like, oh, that's what I don't want to do.
But I said, don't do it now.
Well, I didn't actually. He literally sent me his response like 3 minutes before the podcast, so I didn't entirely read I haven't read his whole reply, but he's like the land thing that's just gonna bog you down. That's what he said.
Yeah, I think I think so. I think something you could do in the future, but not now.
I do feel inspired after hearing about and from Val of like, I need to be trying more things, like just taking more swings and like putting more experiments out there to see kind of what lands. I like that.
Yeah, listen,
Dude,
throw stuff against the wall, like see what sticks. What's the worst?
But when when most people throw stuff against the wall, it's a half-ass attempt. When you throw stuff against the wall, like you spend money, or you said that when you didn't have much, you spent like $6,000 or $7,000 on ads to see if this X thing could work. Whereas most people will like, oh, I'll lose a couple $100. I don't want to do that. It's like you actually try.
But that was an accident. Like in that thread, that was an accident. There were no budget caps back then. So I turned it on, I go to sleep, and I woke up to a $6,000 spend.
Yeah, but you still did it. I mean, I get just like most people just don't do. Your attempts are like good.
So when I was going to all these music sites, you know how I get their attention? I would go to a site and I would just kind of, through Alexa or whatever, I kind of knew how much traffic they have. And I knew these guys were outside the country. And to get their attention, I would literally email them and say, hey, I'll give you $100,000, or I'll give you $50,000, I'll give you $20,000. Prepaid, I'll wire it tomorrow. Just so you could test my ringtone matcher link for 7 days. If you don't like it, if it doesn't make you enough money, take the link off. We'll never talk again. If you like how much it generates, you'll sign a contract. And everybody signed a contract, because those 2 text links were generating like 5 times. Like somebody who was making there were sites that were making top sites were making like $100,000 a month. I would pay him $400,000 a month on top of that.
And how many people actually took you up and said, all right, fine,
Everybody.
wire me the money and then I'll put yours. They all wanted the money first.
The money. My success rate on that email was just, I mean, who the hell is going to take money like up front?
I would be like, you know what? I don't need you to do it up front. I'll give it a try just because you're serious. And you actually told a story on Palm's podcast because you were like bold, but you have high integrity, because like I think there was a guy who you owed a lot of money to because they were a customer of or they were a vendor, and you just had a bill that you had to pay them, and they like changed their address or something, and you're like, dude, I can't find you. I owe you $60,000, and you like held on to the $60,000 for like a long time, and you just were seeking them out everywhere. Like, hey, where'd you go? I need to pay you your money.
Yeah. It pays off. Like, because we had so many international people, in the music business, when the Great Recession hit, and they were in all these countries, and where their banks, a lot of them banks were located in weird areas, weird countries like Cyprus, and they would literally tell us, hey, stop wiring us money. We don't trust the bank we're working with. I got to get a new bank account. Like, we held their money they told us to hold their money for I mean, we had millions in our bank account that didn't belong to us. And all these sites basically told me like I was kind of like their bank for a while because they didn't want to get paid and they didn't trust the bank. It was phenomenal to me. Like I couldn't understand that they trust me with their money. For I mean, it was, I think in some cases up to a year we were holding their money because he had nowhere to send it.
That's crazy, dude. This is a good conversation. I'm happy you came on.
This is awesome. Listen, you're doing. I told you before, I love your podcast. It's very like layman terms, right? It's actually takes a lot of intellect, in my opinion, to dumb things down.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It helps. Yeah. Oftentimes I wonder, like, a lot of my friends are English as a second language. Maybe it's like I'm always amazed. Can you imagine coming to another country where you don't speak the language at like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then like just crushing it? I think that's just like amazing. I've got a bunch of friends who are ESLs, and they'll like I'll help them write stuff because they're just a little rough, and I'm like, dude, how are you so badass? I'm amazed that I'm just amazed at some of these folks. And you're one of those people.
Yeah, whether you're a cell, like my English is pretty good now, but I still can't put my thoughts together in a way that makes it so interesting for people to understand, and you know how to break that down. So like, you know, and you help me with some of my you know, one of my, you know, pieces on that. So that's power.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. This is badass.
Listen, I appreciate you guys having me on.